The official release date for Drake and 21 Savage's new collab album, Her Loss, is going to be coming this week on November 4th. And it's interesting now because I want to speculate, all right? I want to talk about this new track list that's been surfacing around Reddit. I'm not sure if it's true or not, but it's going to be fun to go through it. Also talk about first week sales predictions, who we want to see on this album, and much more in this episode, guys. And if you want to bump Her Loss live with us this Friday on the 4th, guys, visit the link in the description. It's going to be a huge event for the community. But let's get into this because last week there was confirmation that they'd be pushing this back for a week. So how do you feel about that? And take us through the rounds.
Yeah, it was definitely a disappointing delay. Everybody wanted it for Halloween weekend, but we're still getting it. It could have been worse, bro. It's only a 1 week kind of delay. So
it's okay.
I'm still happy to be getting it on the 4th. And the big conversation now is going to be the first week sales predictions, like it always is when it comes to a Drake album. And when you're looking back to something like What a Time to Be Alive, which came out in 2015 with Future, that album sold 375,000 copies first week as a surprise release. Now, we're actually getting a bit of a rollout. They're on the cover of Vogue. They actually announced it, a week before. So what are you thinking for first week sales,
This is quite interesting. I don't think it's going to do, honestly, Nevermind numbers, just because that was a big surprise as well.
And it was a dance album.
Yeah, and I think that announcement only came out around like 6 p.m., the night before it was going to drop. So I think that's a big factor into it. But people are hyped for this new 21 Savage and Drake collaboration album. And I think that it's interesting because they both bring something to the hype factor for this album. 21 Savage hasn't released a studio album alone since 2018. And the last one he did collaboratively was Savage Mode 2, so people are hungry for his music. Then you got Drake, who comes off of a dance album and everyone's wanting to hear him rap. So I think with that into effect, I think you may see like a good I think over 300,000. That's my ballpark.
Well, I want a number, bro. Not over 300.
It's so hard to call because I'm honestly never mind's numbers, but I think it does 315 to 320 first week.
315 to 320. That's fair.
My guess.
I think this album sells 300,000 first week.
Okay, so we're in the same ballpark.
Making it the highest selling rap album of the year because right now that title is being held by Kendrick with Mr. Morale. So I do think they get that number one spot that they're looking for in terms of hip hop. And apart from that, I think that it's also going to depend on how many tracks there are on here. Maybe if there's only like 9 songs, it won't sell as much because you won't get as many streams. But I think that Drake's the biggest rapper in the game without a doubt. 21 has one of the biggest fan bases right now in hip-hop, so it's definitely going to be selling a lot. But let's go into this leaked track list that's kind of been making the rounds because it's very interesting.
It is very. How do you like it? Let me ask you, bro. How do you like it just from like first glance? Because I know that there's nothing confirming this right now, and looking at it,
it's definitely cap, bro.
It's definitely fake.
I wanted to address it because some fans are kind of like thinking that it might happen, but it's 18 songs.
Yeah.
It has features such as Future, Lil Baby, Young Thug, Travis Scott, Jay-Z, and Rick Ross. And honestly, I think it holds no validity, bro. Yes, these are artists that they've all worked with in the past, and I'm sure that it's possible that you might get a Future on here, that you might get a Travis Scott on this track list too, but to have like even 5 features on a collab album?
No, you can't do that because even going back to, let's say, 21 Savage's like past collaboration albums, right? So looking at Without Warning, you only had Travis Scott and Quavo on that album. There was no one else, right? If my memory serves me correct. So even looking at now, Drake with What a Time to Be Alive, there was no features on that. And both of those albums had solo tracks. So I think the better thing you could bank on is probably getting solo tracks from them rather than having a super heavy, stacked track list full of features because I just don't see a world where that happens. And even at that, I just think that 18 songs is a lot. I'm not sure if like 18 songs would hold weight, for a whole album like that.
It's going to be filler if there's 18 songs, bro. Let's be honest.
But you don't know what that happens, right? I don't want to talk about that because if it's 18 songs, I'll be optimistic. But my guess is probably between 10 to 13 tracks. And I've been saying this for sure.
I think that it's possible that we get 9 songs. And there's a bit of like a theory that if you look at the Jimmy Cooks music video and you see the amount of screens that are behind Drake and 21, there's 9 different like projector screens.
I think that's a Halo reach, though.
It's maybe a bit of a reach, but I think that range is likely, bro. I think 9 to 14 the most.
9 to 14
is what we're looking
at.
And
I think that would be good for them too because you don't want it to get too exhausting, right? Like they're going to obviously have their parts to play in the album and they're going to be doing their own performances, but I want to see a nice solid and coherent track list. And you kind of got that on Honestly Nevermind. People didn't like the dance stuff and well, I liked it. But talking about that, at least it was coherent to a certain extent with the exception, of course, of Jimmy Cooks,
and
right?
Sticky. Those two were kind
of... But Sticky still had like a nice groove to it. You were able to play it in the context of the album. I don't think it was as much as an outlier as Jimmy Cooks was.
Yeah, for sure. But I think that we're definitely bound for no more than 14 because if you look at Watch the Throne, that was 12 songs. If you look at Without Warning, 10 songs. What a Time to Be Alive, 11. Super Slimy and Drip Harder, 13 songs. Kids See Ghosts, 7 songs. Like these collab albums are never that long, so that is promising. I think that the fewer tracks we have, the more likely they are, to be a chance of them all being hitters.
Absolutely.
Which is fucking cool. But something else I want to talk about is actually the album cover that might have been revealed by OVO Sound Radio. And this is very interesting. They posted this on IG, and
I didn't see this
yeah,
yet.
I'll pull it up for you. So it's a picture of Drake and 21 on the set of the Jimmy Cooks video in black and white.
Wow.
And it's interesting because even when you look at the picture, the first one that Drake used to announce the delay for her loss, it was again black and white, and you had Drake and 21 kind of covering their faces with their hands. So it seems like the black and white aesthetic might make kind of a push for the the branding
and
of
how
this
would you
album.
feel about that album cover? Let's say they took that IG post and put it into a frame, let's say, for your album. Would you fuck with that? I think it's super hard, actually.
I'm down for
yeah.
for
Something
like that old school vintage type of vibe.
But what's cool about the aesthetic of that picture too, if it was to make it, right, because it's still speculative at this point, look at, like, let's say the first part that's all white on top that has kind of like that gray tone, and the black part as well, and then them perfectly centered within it. I think it's an awesome cover if it were to make it. But let's see what the community's saying about this album, because there's been a lot of hype. There's been a lot of different opinions, and I like some of them. I don't like some of them, but you kind of have to accept all of them because, hey, listen, it is fucking music. So let's get into this, all right? So this was Hugo JV, and he had said, I expect half R&B and half rap, one solo track each, and I hope a lot of toxic love. I don't feel like it's going to end up as a classic, though. And listen, I could see where you're coming from, but Jimmy Cooks had worked so well for them in that, in that regard. Like, why not bring that culture to the album? And like, you're not necessarily in like, that good time of a season for like, lovey stuff or pop friendly stuff that can make the radio in the summer, Like, I expect this to be a darker album, in my opinion.
But do you think that, like, if they're singing, it could be a classic? Because I think that, like, I'm done with all the soft shit, bro. Like, I got that 4 months ago, and honestly, never mind. I think that if there's a single note sung on here, it might kind of lower the prestige of the album, because it's Drake and 21. We want Drake to get back into the rapping bag. And the one time that they did work together on some melodies, it was Mr. Right Now. And
that
wasn't great,
No,
bro.
it wasn't that great either way. Yeah, and I didn't like that song just because, like, even when I believe because they also shared the hook at a certain point on that track, and I didn't like 21 Savage's auto-tune and his singing and his crooning. It just didn't sound good to me. But listen, we'll have to see what happens with that. But let's keep going on with this. Let's go on to you, Juan. Thank you so much for coming through. And you said 21 carrying Drizzy, no doubt in my mind. And that's been a big narrative right now in this whole sort of community that, hey, listen, Drake is going to end up getting carried by 21 Savage. I just don't see where that happens. I'm being honest with you, bro. I think Drake is a phenomenal rapper, and you might find him outperforming 21 Savages on certain tracks.
And there was that conversation on What a Time to Be Alive, because to me, there's no debate that, like, Drake went into Future's world, bro. I mean, it was all Metro Boomin and Southside. It was all ATL trap beats, and Drake did kind of cater his style towards Future's, but he still held his own, bro, and maybe even outshun him on certain songs if you're looking at something like Diamonds Dancing or Change Locations, for example. But I think it's going to depend. I don't think that 21 can carry Drake just because on Sneakin', Drake got the better part of him. Jimmy Cook, same thing. I think Drake had the better part.
That's going to be a statement.
Nice talk, though. 21 did get Drake. But let me ask you that. Do you think that Drake kind of caters more towards this haunting and eerie production that 21 usually rides out? Because Jimmy Cooks was kind of the perfect balance, right? You had more of the Memphis sample and hard-hitting drums from vinyls in the first half of the beat, and the second half of the beat was more in 21's bag.
Yeah, it was. I think you're going to see a good split between both of them, because even at that, like, 21 Savage does great at carrying soul samples as well, so I wouldn't be surprised if that ends up making some sort of cut on the actual production of the album. But let's keep going on with this. This one was very, very, very interesting. Carter P said, this is going to be the best Drake album in the last 5 years, and this is another narrative around the communities that, okay, honestly, never mind polarizing, people view it either way. Same thing with CLB, either you hate it or you love it. Looking at something like Darkling demo tapes, that's more accepted by the community, but even something like Scorpion wasn't the best received.
No.
So do you think that this could be the first consensus album in, let's say, 5 years that Drake is like, okay, like, this is it.
It's undeniable.
This is undeniable.
This is the one they've been waiting for.
And I kind of feel like that narrative has always been bullshit with his catalog, because even looking at something like Views, unnecessary criticism there on the album, and like people have always been doing that with his albums since he went full mainstream.
But the problem is, since if you're reading this, it's too late. We didn't have the community come together to be like, fuck yeah, this was from start to finish a classic. I feel like that was really the last time that everybody kind of got behind it and had that sentiment. But going into this, I think that it could be that one for him, bro. I really think so. And I think that whenever Drake has his back against the wall, and he kind of is in the sense that, like you said, people aren't receiving the projects that well lately. Whenever he has his back against the wall, if it's the public criticism, if it's him being immersed into a rap beef, that's when he's kind of giving you his best verses and giving you
That's
the best
facts.
effort on songs like Summer 16 or something like Omerta, for example. Like, those moments are pivotal in Drake's career. So I think that he's going to give us the full rap album that we've been waiting for.
I think it will happen. And listen, it's definitely going to be exciting. But
Drew said, I expect another delay. Do you think this is possible?
I like this one. This is what I was going to go through because, shit. Is it? No, okay, listen. The vote cover comes out this week.
Came out.
You know, it's...
I think it's
do we
impossible.
see it? Yeah, do we see it getting another delay? Because listen, we know it's not going to kill the hype if we end up getting it, right? Like, it's if they end up delaying it another fucking 2 weeks, it's still going to probably do the same thing. But I think people are way too eager for it. Do you see another delay coming?
Another delay? I don't think so, bro. Like you said, the vote cover's out. I think they delayed it once. They're not going to do it again. It wouldn't be a great look. I think the fans are hungry now more than ever, so it's the best time to drop it. But I want to go into the features again because I do have an interesting theory, and I only picked up on this on maybe like my 5th or 6th listen of Jimmy Cook's, but at the end of Drake's verse, you can hear J. Cole saying, "Get out my face."
Oh, that's interesting.
Someone says, "Get out my face," and if you really pay close attention, it's J. Cole. So
is that confirmed actually?
Yes, it's confirmed. Genius confirmed.
Wow.
It's J. Cole's vocal saying, "Get out my face," and we know that
already.
Okay,
so wait, hold on. Let me ask you something. Is J. Cole really on Jimmy Cook's? I never knew that, bro. So if you were to go on Genius, you would see J. Cole's credits there. That's ridiculous. So what does he actually do on it?
He just says, "Get out my face." And what's interesting, though, is that, like, of course, he's worked with both of them. And we know that Jimmy Cook's was already meant to be a teaser to Her Loss. Like, I don't think they made this album on a whim, bro. I think, like, even before Honestly Nevermind, they knew they were going to, be putting out this collab album. And Jimmy Cook's just so happened to be the final song, kind of hinting at the next chapter. And you have J. Cole on it, who's probably going to be maybe the only feature.
Not only that, but, J. Cole was also playing basketball in Scarborough for a good amount of time in Canada. So, I mean, that could be, like, who knows what could have happened, and who knows what could actually make this track
Who else do you have a hunch about, bro? What do you think?
Do I have a hunch about?
Who would you want to see?
Honestly, Baby Keem's name is really hot right now, and he was supposed to make a song on Scary Hours EP3. I believe it was What's Next?
On Scary Hours 2, yeah.
Scary Hours 2, my bad.
Yeah.
EP3. I'm bugging out. But yeah, I think Baby Keem can possibly make something. Did super well on Donda as well. He could get into his bag on much darker beats too. I think that could be a thing.
What about Uzi? Because it was that whole At the Gates song that was kind of being teased, and the snippet that came out for it. You think that kind of finds a place
maybe
here?
Maybe Uzi saves that for his own personal album.
Probably.
And like, even listening to it, it's a bit more of like a melodic, like auto-tune driven Drake, where he's kind of like extending his vocals. So like, if you have a full dark rap album, does that really fit the track list and the aesthetic you're trying to go for?
Probably not. I think Young Nudie, Lil Baby, Future are all guys who have worked with both of them, so they can make the mix. But I think J. Cole is the one that we all want to see on here. In terms of producers, I mean, Noah 40 Shabib should be on here. He's been on What a Time to Be Alive, only on one song though. I think he had 30 for 30 freestyle, but I do expect him to be on this track list. Boy Wonder, I hope, is gonna make the rounds here, bro.
Boy Wonder has to be taking care of most of the production on this album, especially if it's on some like sort of like Free Smoke sort of vibe where he's absolutely ripping those drums. And I mean, who's better, to cater to Drake in these moments? For a full rap album. I mean, we had it on If You're Reading This Is Too Late. The proof is in the pudding. The best songs on Nothing Was the Same was handled by Boy Wonder. We could get that same essence back for this new season, and he's honestly the one producer I really want to see.
I think Metro Boomin, if he takes care of all the beats on here, I wouldn't be too mad about that, bro.
Could be crazy too. Do you think he does this kind of like a pretempt into like his next studio album?
He could be the exec producer for sure. It's
good.
Obviously 21's closest collaborator, and of course he did all of What a Time to Be Alive for the most part. Two confirmations, well, not confirmations, but people that have actually teased Her Loss are Vinyls and OZ. They both tweeted Her Loss. So maybe they're gonna be featured on here. At least I hope. And
and they've been
Vinyls did Jimmy Cook's, so I would expect
not only that, but OZ has a bunch of credits for Drake as well. So listen, I think it's a very interesting album, guys. Let me know in the comments.
Also, before we wrap it up,
I love when you do this.
I wanted to talk to you because we didn't mention this in any of the previous videos.
What do you have?
That vocal section. Well, kind of the melody with the vocals from a female in the middle of the Jimmy Cook's teaser. Do you think that makes the album? Because that sounded incredible. Kind of gave me an El Goulding on Pound Cake vibe.
We'll see what happens. I'm not sure.
That sounded fucking nice,
yeah,
bro.
it did. It could actually make it. So
I hope it makes it. So are we getting a Classic Friday?
Are we getting a Classic Friday? I think I'll let you guys decide that. So now I'll actually send you guys off. Lou has nothing left to say. So, guys, let me know her loss, classic or not. What's your predictions? Get them going in the comments section. Let me know, what do you think it's going to sell first week? Who are features you want to see on this? Just get in the comment section. I want to see what you guys are seeing. And as I mentioned at the beginning, guys, we are doing a full-blown live album reaction to Her Loss, Drake and 21 Savage, first time ever, this Friday, November 4th. If you guys want to make it, don't miss out. Link in the description. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and we'll catch you this Friday for Her Loss.